So it is March of 1783, and many of the officers, much of the army had not been paid in years. The officers less so, but certainly the soldiers, their families depended on the pay to survive. So they were, pretty mad, and rightly so, that they were owed these years of back pay. And they knew the war was coming to an end. And so some of the officers, including, although he was no longer an officer, Alexander Hamilton, he was kind of stirring the pot, had this plan to try and force Congress to give them pay, or they would take over Congress. So this is basically a mutiny or a military coup.
And let's just stay with Hamilton for a minute. He was sort of playing both ends of
Yes.
this. He's being very careful because he owes a great deal to George Washington, and he's very loyal to Washington, but he's also kind of flirting with the people who are deeply discontented.
Yeah, what I think he was trying to do was he was trying to get the military to put pressure on Congress such that he could convince Congress to pass reform measures that would actually give them the ability to raise money that they needed to pay the soldiers. But it's like you have the tiger by the tail, you can't let go. You don't really want to play fast and loose with the military and putting pressure on civilian. So he was definitely playing a little fast and loose.
Very important to our Constitution that of course, the Constitution doesn't exist yet, but the military is subordinate to the civilian authority. And so whenever you get into that zone where there's kind of porousness, and it's always very dangerous, we've been successful so far. But anyway.
So Washington gets wind of this plan, and he initially says he's not going to go to a meeting, and then he summons his officers to a gathering, and he brings an address. He starts to read the address, and then he fumbles with the lines, and he pulls out his spectacles, which at the time you are not to wear spectacles in polite company. It was considered quite rude to do so.
Really rude?
Yes. Like you don't pick your teeth in front of people. You don't put your glasses on in front of people. It was not what you did. And so he said, "Forgive me, I have gone blind and gray in service to my nation." Well, they cried because he had gone gray, and he wasn't. I mean, this is the thing, is so many of the officers had been with him since the beginning. And when he started the war, he didn't have gray hair, and he did at the end. And so they had literally we see those pictures of the presidents, how much they age in 8 years. Imagine what it looks like without modern medicine, and you're fighting a war. And so they had seen the impact. And so they all started to cry. Now, the part of the story that's not told as much, and I think this is actually equally as important, is that he had stationed Henry Knox, who was his major general of the artillery, at the door. And if the officers were not willing to sign an oath of loyalty to congressional oversight, then he was going to have them court-martialed.